All right, so thank you all for joining us and our cruising expert, Alanna, as we talk about navigating how to cruise safely right now. In this session, she's going to catch us up on the latest in ocean and river cruising and upon its return from no sail orders. Alanna will discuss what you need to know before you're ready to set sail and navigate the high seas and reveal exactly how to stay safe and put trust into the cruising industry for your next vacation. So before we get started, I have a couple quick announcements. I want to let you guys know that within our directory, you can sign up for local meetups with other wonderful members as you're traveling to different cities. If you want to have some coffee chats or you just want to cruise a local member's city from their perspective and see it from their eyes. You're going to go ahead and go to topics, global hosting, and find it under local meetups. Highly encourage you guys to go ahead and put your name in there as well. We're trying to really build this resource for our wonderful members and help everyone take advantage of that. And then additionally, if you don't have a wonderful chapter started in your city, I also want to encourage you guys, if you're looking for that, to go ahead and apply to be a chapter director for starting a chapter in your city at sheswonderful.com/chapters. And then a few can't miss events that we have coming up. On July 11th, there is how to use work exchanges to travel for free. And on July 12th, there's getting out and meeting new people while traveling. I know I'm going to be there because I love meeting people while traveling and trying to get out and about and explore the culture a little bit more. And then, of course, there's WIT's Travel Summit in Gdansk, Poland. And that's in October, so there's still plenty of time to purchase tickets and book your travel. So a portion of your membership goes to a different travel organization each month. This month's beneficiary is Rise Travel Institute. You can go ahead and check them out online or on their Instagram at Rise Travel Institute. And just so you know, if you don't know already, for every paid membership, a wonderful scholarship goes to a woman in need. So if you'd like to share the love, or if you are looking for a paid membership as well, go ahead and apply. The next deadline is December 1st, 2022. And you can apply or you can send to a friend in need at sheswonderful.com/scholarships. And then I also want to take a moment to thank our brand partners. And now a little bit about our presenter today. Alanna shares her love of worldwide travel and cruising on her blog, Travel the World from A to Z. Her content teaches and inspires others to travel more as she shares advice and knowledge from her own adventures and experiences, including weekend getaways, cruise planning, travel tips and hacks, and excursion advice. Alanna is incredibly passionate about helping others feel empowered when they travel. So you can go ahead and follow Alanna on Instagram, YouTube, or find her blog online. Again, you can find her Instagram at Alanna Zingano. And then, of course, if you aren't already, go ahead and follow the Wonderful at Instagram or on Facebook at She's Wonderful. And now I'd like to present Alanna to discuss navigating how to cruise safely right now. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Perfect. And then I will.
And the floor is all yours.
Great. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate everyone coming out today and showing some enthusiasm of learning about cruising, because it's really a wonderful way to travel, and we'll get into all of that. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to share with you all. So we will jump right in. Special welcome and thank you again. So briefly, we're going to discuss today a little bit about me. What does cruising look like today if you're going to get on board and set sail today, tomorrow, next week? What the vaccination and testing requirements are for you to get on board, what you can expect. Is it still fun on board the ship? What are those experiences like? Is it safe? The entertainment, going ashore, and more. We're going to dive into all of that. But first, who am I? Welcome. I'm Alanna. I'm a travel and cruise content creator. So had it not been for the pandemic, I would have hit my goal of 30 cruises, but we're 30 years old. So it's safe to say I'm a travel addict, cruise enthusiast, and unfortunately I had a birthday and that goal didn't happen, but onward and upward here. I'm a cruise sampler. So for me, the majority of your contemporary cruise lines I have experienced. And what I mean by contemporary cruise lines, it's cruise lines that you perhaps have some brand recognition for. Maybe you've heard a radio ad, saw a TV ad, or of course, online socials. Maybe you even follow their socials accounts, things of that sort. So, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Princess, things like that, to where you have heard of them before. I've likely have been on them and sailed on them a few times. So as a cruise addict, I recently, just a year ago, relocated from Dallas, Texas to the Sunshine State, Florida, so we can travel and cruise even more. That's just how committed we are. And there's a picture of my husband and our daughter. And that was on the first cruise back. So we're very excited. And we often travel as a family, and I've traveled solo as well. And then done the whole kind of gambit of the different ways. So I can speak to that as well, and I'm happy to answer questions if you guys have specifics. But again, if you have other questions that you think of after today's conversation, or perhaps you're watching on the replay, I encourage you to send me a DM, send me an email. All my socials are at Alanna Zingano. So if you're marinating on all of this knowledge today and you think about something after the fact, I more than welcome the opportunity to chat with you afterwards. And I talk about all of these things, from room tours and foods and different type of experiences. So I share a lot of different stuff across social media. So something that I think is really interesting for people who may not know is that cruising was the fastest growing industry in the travel space prior to the voluntary industry's pause and shutdown. Why I find this so fascinating is just to think about the trajectory. When you compare hotels, amusement parks, everything that kind of falls under the travel industry, when you really get into the nitty gritty, cruising was on this exponential slope, upward trend of how fast it was growing. And I think that is just so intriguing to learn and see where and how fast things are going to pick back up. Now it's been a year since cruising has restarted. So it's really, awesome to see things going back to normal, with fleets being fully operational. We'll get into more of like what that looks like as well. But it's just so good to see where it was going, and we have faith and know that it will pick back up, and it won't stop growing. So what does cruising look like today? This is a humble brag here, just so you can know my depth and breadth of knowledge of what I have experienced, because all of my platforms, the main goal is to share my knowledge and experience and provide that advice on to you. So since the restart, I have been on actually 11 different cruise ships, 7 different embarkation ports, and 4 different cruise lines. So this is just to show you that I have a bit of a wide variety of knowledge with those different contemporary cruise lines in just that short amount of time. And cruising today, what I think is so nice is that as a nation, we're moving past the crisis mode into a more manageable phase of the pandemic. I think we all can feel that sense of relief as we're moving on and stepping out of the pandemic fatigue. So we're getting ready. And if you haven't traveled yet, you're getting ready. And this summer really has kind of felt like a lot of people are getting into the excitement mode of what the possibilities are. So it's proven that a cruise vacations are really safe and they are a healthy option for both the guests on board and the crew. We're going to talk about exactly why. So going forward, cruise lines are actually very prepared to adjust the protocols and ensure that everyone on board has an amazing vacation, and then they deliver that to their guests and team members and destinations. So how did we get here? This is going to be a little bit of a story time because I've had some really unique opportunities that I've been blessed with. So back in the earlier phase of the restart here, different cruise lines were figuring out their protocols of how we can get back to cruising safely. Now, Royal Caribbean in particular participated in test sailings. Now, a cruise line has 20 some ships in their fleet. They can't just turn the lights back on and all the ships are up and running with passengers. It's a process. So in particularly, I was a part of the process of getting one ship back on board, and this was the Oasis of the Seas. So I got the opportunity to sail from Bayonne, New Jersey, which is just outside of New York City, and you can see sailing past the Statue of Liberty, which was an amazing bucket list checked moment. Super exciting. It was raining, but I was so happy. And all of the guests that were invited on this cruise, we were fully vaccinated, but because we were going through the protocols of making sure that we could get the crew as ready as possible to deal with these type of situations of what it was like to be back, some guests played the unvaccinated role. And earlier on in the phase, there were different protocols to where on Royal Caribbean in particular, you had to wear wristbands of a certain color, and that wristband indicated if you were vaccinated or unvaccinated, because they do allow unvaccinated children and unvaccinated adults in some scenarios to cruise. So different health and safety protocols than my previous Royal Caribbean cruise, from when this was in August to my previous one in June. So the moral of this kind of story is that, even just a month and a half later, protocols had changed and shifted as they're moving and adapting to everything that's happening in the scenario. Now, these type of protocols, we don't have the wristbands anymore. I have a mask around my neck here, and masks are optional now. So every time it's kind of shifting and changing and moving and adapting to where we are in the pandemic. And here's a quick little video of what that experience was like.
Holy crap, we're here! Wow. Amazing. I'm so excited. Bigger and larger than life.
So as you can tell, I have a lot of enthusiasm. I'm always very excited to get on a cruise ship. This next slide here, don't get intimidated by all this wording. You already know this, but I just wanted to slap this on a slide just in case. To be fully vaccinated, you have to have 2 vaccines, and you have to wait 14 days after to be considered fully vaccinated. For those that want to know, you do not have to have a booster shot to get on board, although all of the crew is actually double boosted by now, and they do accept Johnson & Johnson. So just something for you to know. You already know this, but just throwing it out there. So testing to get on board. These are the requirements that are required. So every guest gets tested prior, either at the port or 48 hours prior to getting on the ship. So this is something that has changed as well since the restart, and we're moving towards making it a bit more efficient and easy for the guests. So here's some pictures of where I was getting tested it wasn't necessarily the terminal, but for the sake of simplicity, it was the cruise terminal before the cruise. Now, a lot of the times they are charging about $100 or so to get charged at the terminal. So I wouldn't recommend that because it's rather pricey. And there are some other opportunities for you to get tested prior and show your proof of a negative result along with your proof of vaccine card a bit more easily. And all guests over 12 are required to be fully vaccinated. And when I speak on these type of rules and requirements. It's kind of like a general wide scope of what is required for the most of the cruise lines. So flexibility is key. So regardless of what ship you're on, a life lesson that the pandemic has taught so many of us is to adapt and shift and pivot and be able to roll with the punches, because a lot of times, with travel, as many people know, you can experience some hiccups, but you don't want it to derail all of your plans and kind of like set yourself off for a tough vacation. So something that can really ease yourself into some of these requirements is actually eMed. So eMed is a telehealth company that offers testing for COVID-19. What makes this really simple is that you can go ahead prior to your cruise and order these test kits directly to your house. A 6-pack is pretty affordable, and it comes out to be $25 a kit when you order a 6-pack. So with that, it's cheaper than getting tested at the port. And then for getting tested at like CVS or Walgreens beforehand, there's often a lot of hassle because finding appointment times can be challenging. And now they've changed it so that, travel testing isn't covered with your insurance if you have insurance, and it's harder and more expensive to get those appointments, especially just for travel. So this is where it's a really nice opportunity, because this testing is available 24/7, which is mind-boggling in the sense they're making it so easy for you. You don't need an appointment. You can literally log in at 2 a.m. and get tested and show a email PDF that's sent to you and show the results when you go to board the next day on your cruise. It's that simple and beautiful. I'm a big fan. It's as easy as just scanning the QR code on the box. You don't open it beforehand, so that they can see your ID and you prove that it's you. You show the box showcasing that it's not opened, and you just do a little video chat, which we've all become very proficient in Zoom and video chatting. So it's so simple. And actually, on a cruise where I was traveling and I was planning on going another cruise, but my daughter was with my parents at the time, and she's just 2.5. My parents, who are in their 60s and who, to be frank, aren't very technologically savvy, were able to figure this out with the step-by-step process of getting your test. So it's as simple as just planning ahead and testing during that pre-cruise window, so that way it's not too early, but early enough so that you can do it, get your results, and then once you get to the cruise terminal, you're good to go. And then you can check your email and you get that lab report right away. So here's a link for that as well if you want the sales page of those testing kits, so you can know about that as well. And then what to expect. So masks are something that, again, has changed. Before, it was something to where if you're eating and drinking, you didn't have to wear a mask. You will see all crew. So that's the captain of the Discovery Princess in that one photo. He's wearing a mask. All crew wear masks, no matter the cruise line, all the time. You will see signs about like social distancing and recommendations to not overstuff the elevators and things like that. And maybe people will put a mask on in the elevator, but it's all pretty much up to your own comfort level at this time. So can you still have fun? Let's take a look. So that was just a little slice of what Carnival Cruise Line's newest ship, the Mardi Gras, was all about. So as we get into this, I know that cruising can be a little bit intimidating if you've never cruised before, especially if you're just unsure, because with these changing protocols, it just can feel overwhelming. And I think any sense of travel can be like that. So I just wanted to also give you the opportunity to write down this email. So in case you want a free quote, you want to ask questions about different types of travel in that sense. These are my travel partners that I exclusively work with, MEI Travel. So you can email them, a-to-z@mei-travel.com, and they're happy to help you as well, because things do change. And like Becca and I were talking about before, she has a trip that is coming up a year from now. So likely things will have changed, and who knows, at that point, will we be in a completely different scenario of what's required at the time to get on a cruise ship. And everyone in the travel space just really wants to be the advocate to put your best foot forward in making sure that you have a safe and enjoyable cruise. And I truly believe that. Here's a really fun example of how having a really great travel advocate or advisor is on your side. So, and oftentimes I know a lot of people like myself, I'm a millennial, I can do it myself. I don't really need any help, but this is to where it's really pays when you have someone to help you. It's a free service, but this is a story of where I was saved nearly $500 money back in our pockets. We had made reservations for a big family trip. It was 4 cabins for a spring break cruise just back in April here. And what a blast this cruise was, but even sweetened the deal when there was a price drop. A sale had happened and we had already locked into it being more expensive. This is to where our travel advisor was able to use their proprietary technology to sweep and scan all of the deals that a cruise line might be happening. And then they're able to pass that saving back on to us. And additionally, they were able to give us onboard credit. So $125 in onboard credit, which we could use in the spa. We could use on board to buy drinks for excursions. So if you guys are interested, again, there's just that email. They work really hard for you. And anyone who works in the travel industry is kind of like clawing their way out of what was a difficult time with the pandemic. So supporting people like this when it's a free service and when it clearly can pay off in your benefit is always helpful to those people. So myself, I'm pretty well versed in FIRST. Cruise lines, especially after the shutdown, make a big deal about inaugural sailings and maiden voyages. So the first sailing back in all of North America was the Adventure of the Seas for Royal Caribbean. And this is to where my family and I flew down to Nassau, Bahamas, and got on the ship to be a part of history and an amazing celebration. So really kind of fun. And additionally, I was on Mardi Gras, which was the maiden voyage of Carnival Cruise Line's newest mega ship. It holds 6,000 passengers. So a lot of the newer ships, things of that sort, I have good knowledge on. So if you have questions about those type of specific experiences as well, I can tap into that. But what was it really like? Let's see. So as a video creator, I always get very excited to share videos because I feel like it can really, tap into your senses and get you excited to experience what's out there, those beautiful destinations with the incredible lobster on the beach. It gets me excited, and I hope it gets you excited as well, the possibilities that you can experience. So let's continue on with what you can expect. Now, this is something that I personally find hilarious because the buffet was something that people who had previously cruised before, and I kid you not, lost their mind. Yes, people were so worked up and worried about what it would be like to experience a buffet on a cruise ship once things got up and running. And guess what? I'm here to tell you it's back. It's okay. They're feeding us. A cruise is, for many people, is all about the destinations and the food, and it is here. So a lot of the times with the different cruise lines, it was plated where the cruise line crew would help you. You would point to what you want and they would serve you. We're seeing a lot of that shift away as well. And it's all back to the self-serve where you're touching the tongs and you're able to scoop out your own food on those buffet lines. Some things that you can expect with dining is the reservations. A lot of times in the specialty restaurants or in the main dining room, they're moving towards the requesting that you have the reservations, but also for the entertainment. Prior to this used to really matter more on what type of ship you were on. If you were on a smaller type ship, it wasn't really necessary. If you were on a larger ship, like an Oasis class ship is some of the largest ships in the world, that was definitely required but previously, but even more so now. So it just kind of depends, but you'll see a lot more of that. And then another change that you can see is the required travel insurance. So some cruise lines actually require this for the unvaccinated guests, if those are those adults who perhaps went and got a medical exemption form, or if they were unvaccinated and they got on board through a certificate of recovery, meaning that they had COVID, the doctor said they're better, and they used that as proof of getting on. You would need that medical insurance. It's not applicable for children who are unable to get vaccinated because of their age, but it's just something to keep in mind, because if that applies to you, it is an extra travel expense that you'll have to think about into your budget. So other changes that you will experience, not all these changes are negative. Some of them are really positive, and I can get excited about the first one. It's the muster drill, not to be confused with mustard. This is the drill that is mandatory and is required by the Coast Guard. So you may have seen perhaps in movies, or if you've cruised before, where you go put on your life jackets, you go stand in a big huddle and you watch a demonstration. Well, this has changed across the board here with all the cruise lines. You basically will download the cruise lines app prior to your cruise, watch a safety briefing video on the app, or perhaps in your stateroom once you're on the ship, check off that you did it, and then you just go physically to that station. Like for on this picture here, it says the assembly station is B4. You go there, you watch the video, then it goes from incomplete to complete, and then they scan your CPAS card, and then you're good to go. You're going to be using the apps and the technology for a lot of different things. From your check-in, you'll have your boarding pass on there as well. You can also still print it out if you want to be old school and have a hard copy. Sometimes for me, just depending, that works out as well. But also those dining reservations, or just simply viewing some of the menus on board. QR codes were a thing previously. We knew about them, but they weren't on cruise ships prior to this, and now they have exploded to where we're very familiar with QR codes as a society, going out on land and seeing those in restaurants as well. So these are like smaller menus, drink menus, but if you wanted to see the full extended menu, you could scan that QR code with your phone, and you don't have to have the paid internet to view these as well. So just something to note, that it is available through the ship's Wi-Fi. If you don't pay for the internet as well, you can still use all of a cruise line's applications, and with that, you're viewing the daily schedule of what's happening with the events on board. If you want to go to the bingo, if you want to go to the trivia, if you want to do the sail away party, and finding all of those things, hearting them, and getting the push notifications of, hey, this event is happening, make your way down to the Royal Promenade so you don't miss it. That is something that you don't have to purchase the internet for. Let's take another look of what it's like on board with the food. So if you haven't had lunch yet, you might be getting a little hungry. So my apologies in advance, but that is just something that I find fun, because you can see in that video a couple different things. Some of the social distancing, that'll kind of vary. There was a sign on the table, but also the ability to either serve yourself or not serve yourself. And then just how incredibly impressive some of the displays can be with all the seafood, and then creating the characters into the fruit. It is super impressive. But we're going to move right on into entertainment. So if you've cruised before, or if you have your preconceived notions of cruising, a little song, a little dance, those are what I'm calling the familiar favorites. those still exist, but sometimes with a new twist, and that means those required reservations. So sail away party, you can still go and enjoy. Comedy shows are still happening, and my absolute favorite thing to do. I love to laugh. I love to get a hit of endorphins and just have a really good comedian on board. Oftentimes, there's more than one comedian, and there'll be a couple times throughout the cruise. So I always love doing that. And production shows, which is the song and dance, and then live bands. I think that's something that so many people missed throughout the pandemic and the shutdown, is just going out and experience, some acoustic music at a bar, things of that sort. Well, that is still happening on cruise ships, so you can enjoy all of that if you missed it, along with the variety shows, perhaps some jugglers, things like that. They do really well in providing you incredible entertainment to keep you having a great time. Let's take a closer look. So I absolutely love ice skating. I think it is so beautiful. And let me tell you, Royal Caribbean is one of the cruise lines that has ice skating on nearly almost the entire fleet. And this is where go to these shows. They are so impressive, from the music to the choreography to the costumes. I love it. I think it's so fun. Perhaps I was an ice skater in a previous life. I don't know, but I have a serious appreciation for it. It is so fun to enjoy. And they don't hire just Joe Schmo to go ice skate for you. They hire Olympians, world-class champions. So they're out there doing incredible tricks. And if you want to get on the ice as well during your cruise, that's always an option. They'll have to look on the schedule, the daily schedule there, the cruise compasses, as they call them, and you'll see that they offer a time for you to go lace up. So you're in the middle of the Caribbean, or you're in Alaska and you're on a cruise ship and you can ice skate yourself. So that's pretty darn cool, if I do say so myself. So let's move on into going ashore and excursions. So this is where it can get a little hairy if you're traveling with your extended family, and where the rules depend on whether or not they're vaccinated and their age. So depending also on where you're going. So for the majority, if you're vaccinated, you're able to go ashore. And at this time, you're able to do whatever you want to do. So if you want to go to a port of call, just go walk around, go visit the shops, go see Diamonds International, go to the beach, and do what you may, you totally can. There's no restrictions on that as of now. But if they are children 12 and over, unvaccinated, at this time, most of the cruise lines, you have to go with a carnival shore excursion, for example, and they call those bubble tours. And so with that, they're kind of keeping you contained with only people who are traveling with you. And it's a safe environment in that sense, where it's not commingling with the general population in that sense. Of course, to every rule, there's exceptions. And what's the saying? Rules are meant to be broken, essentially. So it kind of depends on the destination, and they can make their own rules, and these things can change. So it's something that you can rely on your travel advisors to help you with if you find an interesting cruise itinerary and you're thinking about this. But if you're traveling with a bunch of kids, something to know if you're going to San Juan, Puerto Rico, Limon, Costa Rica, places like that, you might want to look into some of those destinations just to make sure that ahead of time, because where you cruise matters. So story time, this is a picture of my daughter straight smack dab in the middle there, and almost like a sour face because we were on the cruise the entire time. We knew getting on this cruise that she wasn't going to be allowed to get off in San Juan, Puerto Rico. We had planned for that, although because of her age, being unvaccinated, that was the rule. And because we had that knowledge, it was okay with us. Although there was some confusion, and we were uninformed at the time, sadly, that we weren't going to be able to get off in Amber Cove without a cruise line excursion. Some of this has changed since then, but it's just important to stay up to date on having that travel advisor make sure if you are traveling with some kids, because we weren't able to get off in Amber Cove early either. And that's what kind of put us a wrinkle in the trip, because we didn't plan for it. We didn't know for it. Had I known, I would have brought more toys, or I would have brought more things to entertain her, because I thought, oh, this is a whole extra day on board that I didn't know about, but we made it work. One of the things that is actually really awesome if you're looking into cruise excursions, especially if you're cruising in the Caribbean, is to see if your trip is going to any of the cruise lines' private destinations. Now, this is to where I kind of feel like all the cruise lines have a little battle and rival of who can create the best experience on their private destinations, because they're unmatched. Amazing experiences. Nearly every cruise line has one or two different private destinations or private islands that they offer incredible experiences. Perfect Day at Coco Cay. There's a couple pictures there from it, and so many more. Half Moon Cay, Princess Cay. Disney has one as well. Actually, they're coming up with the second one, but regardless, this is to where these can work out in your benefit if you travel on a destination with these and you're traveling with a lot of kids, because those other rules of like not being able to get off if they're unvaccinated don't apply. It's essentially the same rules on the cruise ship. So if they're under 12 and unvaccinated, you can get off and have free roam and do whatever you want in those private destinations. And I think we'll take a closer look at what it's like at a cruise line destination. Okay, so this is kind of a fun experience because it's kind of just to show you how we were still wearing masks in this port of call, and things can kind of go awry as it downpoured the entire time we were in port. So things that are out of our control of whether or not the cruise destination is putting in restrictions based off of how things are going with, mask use and things like that. So a lot of the Caribbean destinations and Mexico are still asking for you to wear masks. But, we still had a great time in doing something very touristy, which we don't normally do, of hanging out in Senora Frogs. That was a blast, honestly, just because it was like, let's make the best of the scenario. And I had never eaten there before, and I was blown away by how good the food was. So just something to note, if you're ever in a jam and it's raining and things like that, try and power through to make a smile, because it was a bad situation of, having bad weather, but we ended up experiencing something that really blew me away with how good the food was. And had it, been a sunny day, we would have experienced something different, and I never would have known that it wasn't just a tourist trap. So moving forward, we're in a better place today than we were 6 months ago, than 6 weeks ago, than 6 days ago. And that's a quote from the U.S. Health and Human Services director. And I think that is just such a nice and beautiful way to kind of put it, because we are moving towards out of crisis mode, and we are moving towards a better place. And I think that the cruise industry is going to climb back up that exponential slope of getting people back out there and experiencing this wonderful type of vacation. So again, as you kind of heard through my stories today, experiences vary over time, and you can see how in just 1 year, changing protocols I experienced over now 11 cruises just in that short period of time it was almost a different experience every time, but little changes. It wasn't things that really ruffled my feathers, but we're moving all towards the greater good here and being healthy in so now is just more the time than ever to lean on your travel advisors and creators like myself. Send me a message, let me help you. I'm not a travel agent, but I do recommend them. So we want everyone to get back out there and experience this themselves. And so if you're needing help, I'm happy to help you, point you in the right direction and give you some additional advice. So I am caffeinated this morning. I am ready for your questions. I thank you guys so much for your attentiveness and joining today on this session. I am always so pleased and enthusiastic to share about my love of cruising. So I really do appreciate it and would love to know if you guys have any questions or thoughts.
I do want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your presentation. Also that eMed to order the test kits, that is handy. I think I'm going to be using that in the future. But also this is probably not geared towards safety per se, but you have been on a bunch of cruises, so I'm going to ask this question. I've heard with booking excursions that it's better to book with the cruise line you're on and not just walking off and then finding one of the stations that are like right there. Would you say that's true?
So when you book with a cruise line, it is somewhat of the preferred for people who perhaps haven't cruised before, because it's like the safe choice in this sense. Once you've cruised a few times, a lot of people will venture off into the third parties. The thing that makes people nervous about booking with a third party is if they ever were late to get you back to the port and you missed the ship, you're on your own. If the reason the excursion, the tour was late and you were on a cruise line sponsored tour, the ship would wait for you. But I've had close calls in the sense of, I'm sweating a little because I don't want to be the last one on the ship, because then we'll be labeled a pier runner of someone running down the pier, wait for me. But I've never had, that. I've had close calls, but not like where I've been left or anything of that sort. I will say, though, that I do third-party excursions, and here's why. Oftentimes it is supporting the local community because it's the locals putting those on. The locals are putting on the others as well, but the cruise lines get a cut. And so it's just less money going back into that economy and to the locals. The other thing is that it is genuinely a smaller experience. So for me, I don't love huge excursions to where I'm on a tour bus with 40 of my best friends. I prefer some of the more intimate excursions. Now, not to say that a cruise line sponsored excursion can't be intimate. You would just have to look at some of the capacity limits that they put on them. Some of them are actually, like in Alaska, they don't want huge groups of 40 because it interrupts the wildlife and things like that, to where it's a nuisance, if you will. But other times as well with the third party excursions, think about it this way. It's in their best interest to get you back on time, to provide you with the best service, because think about it as such, it's their livelihood. All it takes is one time for them to have guests miss the ship and their company is out of service. They will never operate it again. So oftentimes they'll get you back extra early. They want to make sure that you give them a good review, because this is how a lot of these destinations, their entire economy is built on tourism. So for me, I'm okay with it, and I do it. And sometimes it's a more authentic or intimate experience, and better for my budget as well, because it's a little bit cheaper. But I think it's totally okay. You just have to be smart and watch your clock as well, just in case.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? I'm gonna check the chat.
The one thing that I'm really looking forward to on my upcoming cruises, and if people have questions, feel free to chime in, is just having some more experiences with my daughter, who's a little bit older now. So we'll get to see some different changes and being back on a super kid-friendly cruise line. I'd cruised Disney previously, but it was as adults prior to having my daughter. So this is going to be a fun experience of being back on board and showing what it's like with a brand new cruise line and something that's really geared towards her age group. So a lot of fun things coming, and I'm looking forward to sharing. And if anyone has questions afterwards as well that you think about, I welcome, say, hey, I watched this replay on Wonderful, send me a message. I'm happy to chat with you guys.
All right. If no one has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end our event. It was so nice to meet you. I can't wait to see your upcoming adventures. I'll be following you on Instagram.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing more about Wonderful's upcoming events and the travels that you're going to be doing. So, and your Alaska cruise next year. So much to look forward to. Thank you.
All right, thank
I saw the
you.
message from Alicia. Thank you, Alicia. Much appreciated. All right, guys. Until next time. Ciao for now.
Bye.